Guy channel. The Car Guy channel. My name is Mike Hennessy. This show is all about cars and all four car guys. Get yourself a cold beer. Get yourself a cold beer, guys, because our show is... We are smoking! I'm Mike Hennessy, and you're watching the Car Guy channel. I have an auto repair shop. I've been in the business for over 30 years. You name it, we got it, we built it, we've done it, we do it. We love this car stuff, and I hope you guys do too. We're gonna have a lot of fun, got a lot of stuff cooking, so just stay tuned. Welcome to the Car Guy channel. I say it every week, all the time. We have a fantastic show. You can probably get an idea what you guys are gonna be seeing today. We got some rods, we got some originals, and we have Big Red. I'm gonna tell you all about Big Red because it's one of my most favorite vehicles that we built back in the early 90s. So there's a couple things I want you to do. Get yourself a cold one, get on that couch, and don't touch that dial because we have an absolutely fantastic show.
Get out in that kitchen and
Boy, do I have truck of the week. We got cars of the week, truck of the week. We don't get too many trucks on the Car Guy channel. This truck is absolutely, and I mean the word absolutely, spectacular. Great story behind it. If you can figure out the year, might be a quiz at the end of the show. The truck is actually an early 90s pickup truck. This truck here was commissioned for a special client, and we were building this for a huge complete automotive market show. Have another car parked next to it that was actually painted the same color. This color here is 1995 Chevrolet Torch Red, the same that's actually on the 95 Corvette. For the show, the Corvette and the truck was going to be parked together, and they wanted something really unique. And I got to show you this truck, how unique this actually is. We wanted to figure out how can we go ahead and build a 58 truck with all the amenities on it. We're talking power steering, power brakes, air conditioning, cruise control, four-wheel drive, and we kind of came up with a plan. So we went to the auction and bought a 1992 Chevrolet step-side short bed four-wheel drive pickup truck. We buy the truck, get it to the shop, and we stand around as a bunch of car guys ponder what are we going to do, how are we going to attack this, and whatnot. Finally, my good buddy Keith says, you know, why don't you just go ahead and just take the cab off and put the other cab? Why change the frame? We looked at him like deer caught in the headlights, and that's exactly what we did. You're going to see this truck. This is a 58 cab, obviously fenders, hood, cowl, windows, doors, the whole 9 yards. So we removed the 92 cab off the truck and gutted it and stripped it completely and turned it into a 1958, 1992 short bed four-wheel drive truck, and we painted it torch red. You're going to see that everything underneath here is all early 90s truck. Everything was taken off of the truck. We have power brakes, mounted the battery up here, late model alternator, TBI fuel injections underneath the air cleaner. Nothing's been changed because we go ahead and register this car here as a 1992. So all the smog is totally correct and exactly the way it's supposed to be. Yes, it has a catalytic converter. It has everything the smog needs to do, tuned up, easily to go on, and the truck drives just like a 1992 Chevrolet truck in its day. It's a very low mile vehicle anyway because we picked up virtually almost a new one. Put new air conditioning compressor on it. And you got a new evap system. It came out really nice, and I think this thing here drives absolutely spectacular. The motor itself is probably around just close to 230 horsepower for this particular truck, and they hold up great, drive great, cooling great, and you can see how we went ahead and mounted everything across the back of the firewall. You can see this the cruise control unit. It's all the wiring. It has to go through the whole complete vehicle, heater hoses, the heater box, air conditioning box. Everything is mounted and adapted into the 58 cab. You can see that we went ahead and put on a brand new replacement AC Delco air conditioning air compressor. Now we did convert this whole system. This came in with R12, which is the early model Freon, stuff that kills the ozone, kills the planet, and whatnot. So to be environmentally correct, we went ahead and installed R34 Freon, make the system here cool. It's not as cold really as the R12, but it does a pretty efficient job, enough for a small cab like this to keep this thing nice and cool. Placed all the bits and pieces in here. I think it turned out really nice. This is what throws most people off, is the bed of the truck. This bed is obviously the 1992 Chevy short bed step side truck, and the bed was never removed on the vehicle until about maybe 3 months ago. The bed itself always stayed on the vehicle. When we had the cab removed, we didn't need to remove this, so we went in and painted and did all the work when the bed was on the truck. It's still on the same 1992 frame. Now these beds are really kind of narrow. I want to say for a truck wise, you probably don't really hold a lot as much as they'd like to, but they really look cool because you have the roll of the fenders, and they're kind of fiberglass, so there's really pretty light on the end of it. And the gas stays in the same spot. Again, nothing changed and nothing changed anywhere. Step sides, going to go ahead and painted all this here, did all the body work, and I think the color turned out absolutely fantastic. The pretty cool thing about this truck here is this was done in 1995, and we got a phone call and said this truck is still out there, and it was actually in a private museum in Phoenix, Arizona. Actually, Scottsdale. Went down to Scottsdale. And we got to talk about gasoline on the show one of these days. Gasoline turns basically it turns rotty. There's no doubt about it. The smell was horrible. That's the time that the bed finally got removed. The best way to replace the fuel pump and the fuel filter stuff is inside the gas tank is to lift the bed up. We took all the bolts off all the way around on this bed, went ahead and just really one guy could, you gotta be fairly strong, lift the bed in the air, put some blocks of wood underneath there so you can actually get to the top of the fuel pump. It's electric fuel pump in the vehicle. This would not run before. The gas was pretty tarry, pretty thick, and it needed to be flushed out and cleaned. We were able to go ahead and remove it, put a new fuel pump in, clean out inside the gas tank, lean the truck back down, replace the fuel filter that's on the bottom, and hit the key, and this thing here fired up after 15 years of being in a museum. That just shows how the fuel injection system worked back in 1992 and 95. TBI really is a good system. They have up-to-date systems today. They're obviously more proficient and run a little bit better. I'm telling you, driving this vehicle here, this is absolutely a head turner. Now, normally the Chevrolets had all the emblems across the back and the bottom. We went ahead and de-emblemed the truck. I didn't really want too many on there. And you still got the tailgate. You still got the usage of a truck. We did put a nice bed liner in it. So this thing really can be used and function as a truck. We're taking it to some shows and some stuff all through the whole Bay Area to show people what it's like and what it can be done. And I'll tell you, even to the mechanics, even to the guys who know it all, and a lot of guys, they still question, what is it? Car guys still like one thing on cars. Old school guys like one thing on cars is called chrome. We went ahead and had a chrome bumper put on with new step plates on it. Kept it really, really nice. And I know about you guys. Something about dual exhaust has to work for everybody. And so we went ahead and did split it in the system and put some good old school size tips on the back of it to give it that dual exhaust sound, the dual exhaust look, and it looks great. Wheels and tires. Now guys, picking the right rim, the right tires could drive you completely bonkers. These wheels here, we went through magazines. Now back then, they did not have much options as we have today to look for rims and all sorts of crazy things. But when we sat down and came up with it, this is what we came up with. And I'm telling you, I think it was a great choice. Well, I did kind of save the best for last. I really saved what we call the challenges of building this. Designing the bed and designing the cab to fit with the bed and on top of the frame was the mounting brackets we had to go ahead and use and design and custom build for this cab to sit correctly on top of the frame, so it did work. Believe it or not, it really fit pretty darn good. Amazed all of us in the shop. We weren't really sure how it was going to fit. We did get it on there. And what I'm going to show you was the biggest challenge that we really ran into. If we're going to keep this truck here to the same mode of the early 90s, we had to go ahead and install the early model 1992 General Motors truck dash out of the original cab. We cut it, we made it fit, and put it in the vehicle. Same with the steering column. And you got to check it out because it was a lot of work, and that's probably where all the challenges came in. Now check out the dash. The dash was actually cut. You can see so it fit all along up to where the windshield is. We had to take a good 1.5 to 2 inches from the front here all the way back, so this dash will seat further into the firewall. And you can see this dash sticks out quite a bit on it, and with the steering column to come sticking straight out and how we have to have it, there's really not too many options we really had. But I'm telling you, by the time we were able to do some cutting and cut some fitting and some fabricating to make it fit for this particular cab, it really came into a way of fitting really pretty good. This car has all the amenities that you need. You got tilt steering here, we have the wipers, we have the cruise control, turn signals, just like it was in 1992. All the switches on the dash, we got the speedometer, all the full fascia, exactly how it goes. Now we have the radio that's over here. Now the radio in the vehicle did not really work that well. We didn't really care for it, but the air conditioning module, since it's all one piece, we decided not to modify it at the time. So we went ahead and put our own stereo system right on over here on the dash, right underneath the vents. It makes it really nice. It makes it kind of clean, and I'm telling you, it has a good sound system. A vehicle like this here that's not really rough riding, and I think it has a great sound system. You'd be almost really surprised with all the new rubber around all the doors. Just to give you an idea how the width of the original cab is from the cab that we're putting on, this right here is roughly about 8 inches. And if you look at 8 inches here, and you look what's left over here, this is how much we actually had to cut off the original dash before we could actually install it into the cab. So we went ahead and modified this. This is actually sealed in position, so it's really not a functional glove box because we have a lot of pieces back there. We got our air conditioning, and I'd rather have air conditioning than the glove box any day. You can see that we put in the four-wheel drive select just as it was in the factory on the early model 1992 cab. So converted into the 58 cab, we went ahead and made all the brackets fit right on in to the same linkages, had to be adjusted a little bit for the length and the fit. This thing here fits in perfect and goes right into four-wheel drive just like it should back in 1992. Now the seat was a challenge also. Believe it or not, this actually is partially of the original seat and partially of the seat that actually came out of the 92 truck. It's real high in the back, so it kind of touches pretty close to, just a little bit over your shoulders, which is a good fit. And we had it all reupholstered with Mountain View interiors. Bobby does all our custom work, and I think it's a way to go on this. And the way he had it seated with the foam, and it's really designed for 2 people. 3 can fit in the front, but it is pretty close with 3 people. But there's one little upholstery item that we put in here, and it comes with what we call the short story. This right here I call a Susan bar. Now this bar is all padded, which you can tell. I can press my fingers in here. Now originally this was all the metal, nothing was up there. Gave Susan a ride in the truck. She goes, "Oh, this truck's kind of nice." She goes, "It's really cute." Then I hit the gas, back of her head hits back there. Apparently the cuteness just wore off real fast. So put the bar in there right away, and I call it the Susan bar. I decided on this truck to go ahead and make actually shoulder harnesses. Put them in there. I ordered them from Performance Plus Belts, and I actually have a retractor on the bottom. You pull them up, set them in the seat belts, and I did it for both sides. And I did put a small set in the center in case we did have a center rider to go ahead and have seat belts. They are the law. It is the way it's supposed to be. There are probably some rules about who will complain and say, well, it's not supposed to be if they didn't have a car in the 20s or 30s or 40s. But seat belts are safe. It is the way to go. I highly recommend them. And I think it actually was a pretty good touch to the truck anyway. And it's a good feel. And I think it was the right thing to do. It came out real cool. Now, having a truck that has power steering, power brakes, tilt steering, it has all the amenities, all the cool stuff you can possibly imagine. Guys and gals, we had to put a stereo system in it like we talked about, put the good Sony speakers in the door panels, but there's a little button that's next to the handle, and yes, that did not come out of the 92 Chevy truck. What that is your power windows, and you got to have power windows. So making power windows back in 1992, for them, they didn't have all the kits like they have available today. We had to construct a power window design a kit, make all the bracketry, make all the connections, all the linkages, and that's a GM switch. We put that switch in there. Yes, this truck does have power windows. So when you see this 1958, 1992 truck on the road, throw it a thumbs up. You're going to see all the chrome mirrors, chrome door handles, the two-tone. We went in, put the satin silver on it, kept the custom cab trim look all the way around, big wraparound window. I think this truck is absolutely spectacular, not because we own it, it's because of how it was built. We did a lot of things in the technology back in the early 90s. We did all the technology we really could. We did go fuel injected. We did put all sorts of power accessories and all the air conditioning, the big tires, and add a little bit of chrome with a torch red. Hope you enjoyed the truck. I'm going to go check out a few other cars. But you guys know what you're doing. That's kind of a neat feature, really.
We try and help the other guys that don't know as much about what's going on, kind of help them to learn more about it, and that's what it's all about. It's learning.
What do you say when a guy says, "No, I was at so-and-so auto parts, and the idiot didn't know his butt from first base," and and then he comes over here, and I guess that's kind of what your guys' claim to fame, though, really, isn't it?
Somewhat, yeah. We, they just haven't worked here, so they don't know.
Well, you guys are finally tapping into They're tapping into the speed market. They're tapping into the custom market, right?
Yeah.
Like all the stuff you guys, you got gauges, you got stuff, you got, I mean, you're tapped. I know it's a little bit of everything. Electric water pumps. So since you're kind of in the hot rod theme, so I know you're handling some flathead stuff.
Yeah, we got a few little things. We got some heads. We got an intake.
How did you talk them into flathead stuff?
Well, you know, it's been tough. It's been about 8 years coming, so.
So I had a feeling that you had a little something to do with the flathead stuff.
Just a bit. Trying to get some of that stuff, just to let people know what we can get. I mean, if we have a variety, somebody might, you know, say, hey, you guys stock flathead stuff. How about something for a nail head, or, you know, whatever, you know.
How many customers really like my shop are out there? My shop we build the street rod stuff, the custom stuff we build. How many guys out there are like me?
You know, not too many. They're getting less and less every day.
You're trying to say we're trying to dinosaur, huh?
Yeah, kind of. But I'm trying to bring it back. We're trying to bring it back.
Cool. Hey, we're going to do that. Hey, let's get the rest of the store, guys. Rock and roll.
Cool.
Hey, thanks, bud.
All right.
You know you make me wanna shout, kick my heels up and shout, throw my hands up and shout, throw my hands back and shout, come on now, shout.
You know, in today's show, we don't have enough green cars, but you know what? I have 2 green cars that I want to show you today. This particular car is not my car. I did have 39 LaSalle, sold it out of my collection just recently, went out of the country, and a customer had this 39 LaSalle, and they purchased it at an auction, and they wanted to get this car here really tuned up and trimmed up right for his wife. They got a good buy on it, but the vehicle needed some motor work. We went in, tore down the engine, took care of the pistons on it, and doing an early model LaSalle. Now, for you that don't know what a LaSalle is out there, LaSalle actually is a Cadillac. It was a different line of Cadillac in its earlier years to help kind of sales go right along. A lot of companies, Dodge had Plymouth and so on, and they went ahead and created the LaSalle line. It did not last for a long many years. You guys can probably Google it. I can give you the information, but there's no quiz at the end of the Car Guy channel. But a LaSalle car is absolutely stunning and beautiful. I kind of think that this particular grille on the LaSalle is probably the better out of all their makes and models. But this car here has the headlights that go ahead and bolt on to the fender itself. They have a huge, and I mean a huge long hood. And believe it or not, you would think they would have like a straight 8 engine because of the length of the hood. They do not. This right here has a Cadillac flathead V8 engine. Now, to tell you something about these V8 engines in these Caddies and LaSalles, these motors were put in military vehicles, all sorts of industrial equipment. The motors are pretty much bulletproof. It's hard to get parts for actually today to go ahead and do this. The pistons actually be custom ordered and custom made for the job we were doing. But I'm telling you, when you drive one of these down the road, the respect you get, St. Regis green, the color is outstanding. They didn't use metallics. They didn't use any crazy stuff in it. It has a nice, great, you touch the paint, it's just like touching the baby's bottom. It is actually so smooth. And you got the hubcaps, you got the trim covers, the wide whites. It fits the bill pretty cool. I want to take you through this car and I like to show it to you. I'm going to probably test a lot of your ages that watch the show, so pretty much if you're under 50, you might not understand it, but there used to be a TV series called All in the Family. Great program, very controversial, and some crazy things that happened on it, and a lot of actors spun off and went to a lot of different shows. And I'm not going to sing it, but the theme song that Edith Bunker sang on the show was pretty much like our old LaSalle ran great in the good old days, or it was the good old days, or old LaSalle ran great. And that was kind of a neat little term, the only time LaSalle was ever used on a television program to my knowledge. You're going to see a huge V8 in this car. 391 cubic inches what it is. You're going to see that this is a V8 obviously, but it's a flathead V8. Like I said, these were designed a lot for industrials, tanks used, the military did. The exhaust manifolds are not at the bottom of the block. They're actually on the top of the block, so the exhaust kind of comes up through this manifold and sends the exhaust down to the piping, and away it goes. Manifold here, a manifold over there, and you got a cross pipe over here on the side. It's really kind of an interesting design, one of the few that does run the exhaust that way, but that's what Cadillac and LaSalle did. They kind of bury the generator kind of there on the very lower end of it, and these cars run really cool. We kind of did all the hoses correctly. We did the green stripe on here and there, and kind of did it the way it kind of should have been done. And getting this valve back here for the heater control unit, we did a lot of things on it for our client to make this really kind of a nice car. Since I've owned a handful of LaSalles, I had a pretty good handle on what we needed to do. And again, parts availability, guys and gals, half the trick and half of the charm is trying to find these parts. When I say the word charm, I'm being polite because it's very, very difficult to get a lot of stuff out there that are just not made anymore. I'm telling you, back in the 30s and 40s, these folks really knew how to do hood ornaments, and they really knew how to make the hoods open. That's how you open the car. You lift up this, and the hood comes up. That really is what it's all about. But I mentioned earlier about the grill. Now, the grills did change with LaSalle on different years. When I told you earlier, this car here happens to have a 1938 grill, and the way these crosses comes in, little cubes and whatnot all the way down, it has its own style. The latter model, which is the latter 39 LaSalle, will have the straight lines all the way across and looks like fins. They're really kind of neat, the whole look of itself, but that's what people did when they changed things back in the earlier years. But LaSalle itself was a very, very well-built car, and it's a very heavy car. The headlights are very sturdy, and if you notice, there's one fog light on the car. That's the way they were sold back then, so only one fog light. Bumpers the same way. These kind of a spring still here to spring them back and forth, and I'm telling you, with the chrome on the front and the beautiful emblem, the LAS for the LaSalle. These cars were so elegant. Even today, you can use one actually as a limousine. And this right here would be considered a businessman's car in the actual 30s and early 40s. That's the way this car here was. They built them so well and so phenomenal. And when you look inside the car, the whole coach work and all these things, it's just beautiful. Back seat, you notice they put ashtrays everywhere, which I'm really glad they eliminated those. But this back seat is looking really nice. The quarter glass windows, those slide and pop open. But you can see why this could be used as a limousine today. I'm sure you can see why they call that a banjo steering wheel, because of course, you know, you're going to have the 5 tubes that come out, but they're a flat steering wheel. They're not curved because they need the steering column up far as much as they could. And if you notice, they're a large round steering wheel. And the reason why they had to be large and round is because you needed the leverage in the muscle to do this. Look at the back of this car. I'm telling you, it's exciting to see the back of it. Now, the reason why you might want to say, people say, oh, one car has the single glass versus the split and whatnot. In those days, the technology of having glass bow and actually have an angle to it for the American cars, there were some European cars that did have it. It's the cost and the manufacturing, the technology that they really had. It had to be flat glass. That's why they are the smaller little windows in the back for these type of vehicles. Remember, this car here is in the 30s, so this really has the split window in the back and, of course, the really cool humpback trunk. I'm telling you, it doesn't get any better than that with the big V8 emblem they have. Like I mentioned one time before, these companies were never afraid to put their names and the V8s and the 6-cylinders and all the information on their cars. Nice big T-handle down here to open up this big trunk. But here's a car that's this big and this large, and you kind of got to almost chuckle a little bit. But look at the lights. This light is about 2.5 inches wide and 2.5 inches tall. I don't recommend it at all, but that's what you got to do. That's why you got to be careful when you drive them. I'm telling you, take a look at this car. If you ever get a chance to ride in a 1939 LaSalle, get in it.
Everybody had an ocean across the USA. And everybody
Covering green cars, we're covering another green car. We went from the sterile and the original to the finest exotic and the finest, coolest darn street rod I've ever seen, had time to deal with. This car is a phenomenal, phenomenal green paint, pinstriped off, and a beautiful tan. The color combination of this car is fantastic. You're going to see a professionally built street rod. It comes to us for all sorts of service that needs to be done, and I'm glad that they go ahead and do that. They keep up the car extremely well. Being a 2-door sedan, it is just the coolest thing with the Boyd's wheels, the knockoff on the end. It's a full, complete tubular chassis. This is what street rodding is all about. So when you go from the original and bring back to something like this, let's check out the inside of this car. I think that's what's really going to impress you. Having electric doors really makes a difference, because I'm going to try to do this. You just barely touch it and the doors open up. And when they do, you can see the quality level of the door jambs. And you know, guys and gals, I've always said this all the time, attention to detail. This car here was done extremely well. This does have all the amenities from home. It does have air conditioning. It has power steering. It has power brakes. And it has power windows. Even the gas cap area is automatic. You flip a little button and the gas cap opens. But take a look inside this car. You're going to see it's full leather center console. It is an automatic, and the dash is about as clean as a dash can look. for the American car world. 1934, I think, had the most stylish grille that I've ever seen, and has the leaping Greyhound on the front. And there's a lot of parts that you can buy out there that are reproduction, a lot of parts are original. So when you're building a special street rod, you have to get some original parts, obviously, to make it kind of nice and make it kind of neat. They do remanufacture some of these pieces, but there's some pieces that are not. So when you're building one of these, you got to look and see what's original and what's not. You check this out. This is pretty cool. You're going to see a performance motor built is actually a Cobra 302 engine, and it is fuel injected. Mass airflow sensors. You have everything you need to do. Some guys try to beat the system when they do the smog world. But you know what? Today technology, these motors that are smogged out and do burn well, they are really fantastic. And that's really what they did here. Ceramic coated headers, air conditioning. You got HEI. You kind of have everything you really need with this. And I think underneath the hood of this car is just absolutely high show quality. It's beautiful. Again, the cars that were in the 20s and then the 30s, they are without a shadow of a doubt my favorite look. They're really what the automobile was supposed to look like. Our grandfathers, great-grandfathers, the designer of the automobile, these were the lines and these were the style. And I'm telling you, when they get the cars like this, you drive it down the road, everybody gives you a thumbs up and everybody checks it out. This is probably the best example of a 1934 Ford. Plus, being a street rod, it's one of the best I've ever seen. During the summer months, we usually take on some young people, show them a little bit about what automotive's all about, and building a motor. Tell me your name.
My name's Matthew. See ya.
And then Matthew, you like cars, and that's why you're here.
Yes.
He loves cars, from what he tells me. And I asked him what his favorite car is. What is it?
It's a Ferrari 458 Italia.
And you got a chance to get in some cars here, didn't you?
Yeah, a lot.
What was the favorite car you rode in?
The Ferrari. What was the name? The 6045 GTA.
But it was a Ferrari.
Yeah, it was a
That's
Ferrari.
pretty cool.
It
Then we
was
got a
big,
Corvette
yeah.
you're going to get a ride in.
Yeah.
What kind of Corvette's that?
1967. What was the name of it?
427.
477. A Corvette was a
435 horsepower!
Yeah.
That's what we want. Horsepower, the Car Guy channel. You know, bringing kids over to the shop, some young people learn about automotive is really kind of neat. And we're able to show them some of the projects that we're working on. And I get so excited about these. I'm going to be a 65 Falcon. This is a project we started for a client. And I'm telling you, he went first cabin on everything you possibly could think of, especially let alone taking the body all the way down to the metal and the front suspension. He did not want the Falcon front suspension on his Ranchero. He wanted coilovers. He wanted all types of stuff put onto it, and plus with the tubular suspension. So we replaced all the pieces, got all the new stuff. They came from TCI. TCI was a very good supportive company. We had to call them direct for a few questions because we wanted to do it right and weld it in the right spot and do everything the way it's supposed to be. This right here is all going to be taken care of. All those pieces will be painted that color for the underneath the car. Inside the fenders will be black. The outside of the car, not going to tell you. We'll go for that. But let's check out the back of the car, and I'm going to show you what we're doing in the back for a 4-link suspension. But my client wanted to go ahead and go a rear 4-link suspension on it. I'm telling you, I looked at them first, and I said, they don't make one for a Falcon Ranchero, which they do not. We had to order one. That's when TCI was very, very helpful. Told them what I really needed for the basic main parts, and we actually had to construct and design a lot of the pieces ourselves, especially up in here in the very top. We had to split this, weld it up, and do a few other things. And this right here is mocked in. Mocked in, of course, is a term in the car guy world is we have it just set intact in position. Now we know this is where it's going to go. So we're going to go ahead and see all the updates in this car as we're going along, and I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of pretty cool stuff out there, and I'm going to show you the crate motor coming in, crate tranny. Telling you, this car here is going to be a very, very, very cool car. Hey, thanks for watching the Car Guy channel. Hope you got a lot of good information out there and a lot of cool stuff to see. I mean, Big Red, let's face it, you just don't see a truck like that every day because we're told it's the only one in the world. I really respect it, I really like it, and I enjoy building it with our staff. The people did a great job in it. And with all these street rods are out there, they're really neat to have out there, the building, the work, and it's a good, safe hobby. I want all you guys to do things well. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.
Brand new 409.